Good morning and welcome to the Celebration Space. My name is Kaylee Phelps and today we are talking about what to ask before adding to your team. So of course this is going to look very different depending on if you work for an organization and you're the hiring manager maybe. That's a position that I've held in multiple different places, hiring multiple different people from part-time employees, interns, and full-time employees. Or if you're a solopreneur or an entrepreneur, it's going to look really different because obviously a lot of this is going to be on your back. So these are questions that typically are answered by, oh, thank you, Lyman. Lyman said he loved my sweater, which is so sweet. But these are questions that I think are really integral to ask if you maybe don't have a really big HR team, or maybe you are trying to hire a lot of people really quickly. And this is a checklist that I'll put on the blog so that you can really outline and make sure that you are checking all of your boxes and really looking at this holistically beforehand. Oh, thank you, Lisa, as well. I think you got me this, so I appreciate it. So we'll dive into the questions. I hope you don't mind. I have some notes over here. So of course, the natural first question is, what is the need that we need someone to fill in this position? And what does the time frame look like in terms of how many hours we need them in the office or working online, working from home, contributing to this project? What is the title, description, and pay range of this position? Again, pretty basic. If you've applied to jobs before, you know that these are the things that you're typically looking for in terms of what the qualifications are, what your day-to-day would look like, what the time frame is, whether it's full-time, part-time, contract, and what the pay range is for this. Also, benefits can be included in that pay range. Typically, if you're a larger company, that's going to look like you have one package that will go with most of the positions you post. And then how many people are we hiring at the same time to fill this position? So when I was a lead account manager, I would be part of hiring teams that would onboard, 10 different account managers at one time, and I was part of the team that trained them as well. So it was a lot of tracking many different personalities, tracking people who had different backgrounds, and figuring out how to hire people and have them around the same start date so that they could all be onboarded at the same time and we could track their KPIs, we could be doing the same calls. A lot of this was virtual training as well. So here's a big one. What amount of time will we dedicate to finding the right person, and what is the timeline from posting the job to interviews to hiring to onboarding? So again, this is especially complicated if you are hiring a team of people that you want to come on at the same time and have the same start date. But you want to make sure that you're really realistic about how long it'll take you to find people and what the urgent need is in your business, or if you're able to kind of plan things out so that it's not extremely urgent, but it's something that you're actively looking to do. So, and then a big one is who will conduct interviews? What will the interview structure look like before, during, and after the interview? So as you're receiving applications, who's going to be conducting these interviews? Will you have a team of people? What is the structure? Are you going to have a virtual interview, just one-on-one with one person, and then if they pass that, then does it go to an in-person, or do they do another virtual one? I went through, just during this quarantine, a 7-round interview process, which was really crazy. I did all 7 rounds. I think I talked to 9 different people during that process, or actually I think it was 10. And so it was just like a very rigorous process, but it was something that they were holding all of their interviews virtually. So they were trying to see where I would fit within the team and what that would really look like. And my qualifications didn't end up meeting the needs of the team, which ended up being okay. It's okay for you to interview and have it not come to fruition. You learn something from every interview, and I learned a lot about how to interview from that process as well. So That's before the process. When you receive an application of someone that you want to interview, what does it look like in terms of how you reach out and present the information? What is the structure of the interview going to look like in there? Is it going to be the standard question and answer? At my last position, when we did intern interviews, we did a really unique system of sending them a list of 10 questions that they could answer in any order that they wanted, and we never prompted them with questions. It was really read a question, answer it, read a question, answer it, and it was more independent and presenter style rather than a Q&A back and forth. So, or are you going to have someone in a lot of interviews now where they present a mock project where maybe they say how they would handle your social strategy, or have them do research on what they would do with something. So looking at what parts of the process you want to do that, how you want to present that information, and also setting realistic expectations of, if you are having someone do a project, are you only giving them 2 days before the interview to do that when they have a full-time job already? And how long is that interview process going to be? Do they have 30 minutes? Do they have an hour to present to you what this mock example of a project would look like? And then after the interview, just setting really clear expectations of, hey, we are talking to people, this is when you should hear from us, this is our ideal start date, this is what onboarding would look like. Really setting clear expectations so people know what that would look like, and they can feel a little bit more comfortable in, the interviewee seat as you're trying to be comfortable in the interviewer seat to have the answers to their questions. Because, as we know, interviews are just as much about the potential candidate vetting you as it is about you vetting the potential candidate. So who will be the future manager of this team or this person? And will they be able to be part of the interview process and have their voices heard? So if you are hiring someone that is coming onto your team and you are the manager, I think that you should definitely be part of the interview process. If someone else is going to be training that person, I think that person who's going to be training them should be a part of that process, because they are going to be, working with this person pretty in depth and getting to know their personality and their qualifications before they have to train them. And you as a manager should know their qualifications and their personality before going into a management situation. If you do a structure like my last position, we did interviews. I had virtual interviews, and then my in-person interview was with someone in senior management of the company. I spoke with the CEO, with someone from HR, and then someone that would be my direct hiring manager. So, and then I also talked to a peer interview. So a couple of people were buddied up, and I had 3 rounds of interviews where I was speaking to someone who would be my direct manager in HR, someone in a leadership position, so I got more of a feel of the company and he got more of a feel for me. And then also I talked to a peer who was someone that I could ask more questions about the culture of the company from someone that was a little bit more, on my same level, on a peer level. So looking at what that looks like and how the voices and, feedback will be provided and collected afterward to vet an interviewee and see if they're a right potential candidate. All right, so what kind of experience is best for this person to have? And are we willing to pay more money for someone with more experience, or is the monetary limit a hard and fast rule? So this is something, the age-old question, and I think it surrounds the needs of your company. If you are looking for a computer programmer, you can't really skimp out and, hire someone that would be a great culture fit and would be really awesome to work with and has some qualifications, but they don't, have experience in certain languages, computer programming languages that you would need them to be experienced in. So being really clear about, hey, I want to, pay someone more money to get this job done right and not have to go through this hiring process again, or hey, this is our hard and fast rule and we need to find someone that is the right fit. And hopefully if you have to find someone to fit within a certain parameter, you can have a longer hiring process depending on your needs. And beyond qualifications, what kind of personality will be best for a person in this position? And what are ways we can check in during the interview process to be aware of this personality? So certain questions will really help you be educated about how people handle conflict, how people handle different workloads and working on multiple projects at a time. You can also, there are multiple different personality quizzes that you can send and find out how people work in teams and in a work environment. I'm a collaborator, so I like to work in teams and I like to talk it out. But other people, I think other personalities are like a maverick, and they like to, lead the team, and they like to charge full speed ahead. Some people are more thinkers or big idea people that like maybe they're really innovative, but they don't want to get in the weeds to carry out all the smaller details. So figuring out what kind of personality type will fit this position best, and then figuring out how you're going to vet that personality type along with the experience level that you want to come, because personality really does make a huge difference when you're working in teams together. And then a huge one, what will onboarding for this person look like? How will training be laid out? How long will training be? And who will be hosting the training, and how will that affect their responsibilities? So if you've ever been a person that's been in a position where you're training someone else and they're either shadowing you, or you are holding training modules, or you're presenting to people, it can take up a lot of time, and you want to make sure that whoever's going to be the trainer, whether it's you maybe or someone else, you want to make sure that you are realistic about how it's going to affect your other responsibilities, and also make sure that you have enough time carved out that you're actually able to train and answer questions in an appropriate manner. You're not, jumping onto a phone call for a hard and fast 30 minutes where you're gonna explain all of these things and then you're like, hey, I have another meeting, bye. So just making sure that you're really conscious about laying out what onboarding would look like, laying out and being responsible about what that's going to look like for your trainee and for you as a trainer, and being aware of how that's going to affect other areas of your business or your time management. And then this is huge. I talked about this in The Worst Way to Manage a Team. What are the benchmarks or the KPIs, key performance indicators, for this person at the 30, 60, and 90-day check-ins? How will we track this progress? And what are the consequences of a hire who cannot meet these KPIs or benchmarks, and how will we, handle this situation? So we're coming full circle. We're starting from what's the need of this position, and getting started with the basic questions, to going all the way to when they are hopefully able to, fly on their own at that 90-day mark. But I think before even posting a position, you should be really realistic about not only what it looks like for this person that you want to come into your company, but also looking at what benchmarks and KPIs you need for that person to fill to be independent and be successful at your company. So when you're figuring out what needs in the description of what you want that to look like, and you think about, okay, at the 30-day mark, I want them to be introduced to all of our vendors. I want them to be, done copying me on emails at the 30-day mark. At the 60-day mark, I want them to be able to host their own meetings and show how they're making a difference, or, any of these analytics or data that you might be able to back up around the performance of this person, and being really conscious of what you think that person can handle, and maybe even presenting some of those KPIs during the interview process to see if the candidate feels comfortable with those benchmarks. And of course, if you think it's the right person, and maybe you're setting really high expectations and they're like, hey, I think I could do 4 out of 5 of those things, item number 5 might need to be pushed to the 60-day mark because I'm not as strong in that area. Being really flexible and trying to figure out what's the best balance for you as an employer, and making sure you're being responsible for what's going on in your business, but also being really conscious of a new candidate who's trying to, get their legs under them in a new position that can be really overwhelming. So we went from beginning to end, from posting a position and the questions to ask before posting, things to look for in the interview process, things to look at during training, and also onboarding, and looking at it a little bit more holistically, and how to, track benchmarks for when you onboard someone so that they can come full circle and, be independent and contribute to your company. Or unfortunately, if it's not a good hire or a good fit, making sure that you are really clear with that person so that they can find a position that really fits their needs and they're not scrambling. It's actually better for a candidate if they are, in a painful process of being really stressed out and not meeting KPIs and feeling like maybe they made the wrong decision for them, including if it's a wrong decision for you as an employer. So making sure you're really clear about having those conversations, and then being, flexible to help someone that you think that really can come to that 90-day mark maybe in a different way, or being really clear about just hiring someone else that might be a better fit, and wishing each individual, radical candor, caring personally and challenging directly, and holding both of those things when you're dealing with an interview process and hiring and onboarding and with all of our employees. So I hope that this was helpful just to give you a holistic view of what that looks like. If you have any questions, or if you've done any hiring, or maybe if you're hiring right now, I know it's a crazy time to hire, but people are hiring, people are posting job openings, and I hope that if you are on the job hunt, this might also give you some inspiration of questions to ask your future employer so that you can feel empowered walking into the process. And if you have anything that you want to comment below, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. And until next time, enjoy celebrating today.